Well, Jamie can do it, right?
Oh, Jane.
Yes, I'll do it. I'm not sure if mine is up to date, so just tell me if I miss someone or call someone who's not on anymore. Mr. Bengochia,
Here.
Mr. Ang,
Here.
Mr. Crush,
Here.
Mr. Hughes,
Here.
Mr. Lawani,
I'm sorry, here.
Mr. Luz. I know he's there. I know he's there. It's fine. Mr.
He's
Smith,
probably-
I'm here.
Ms. Smith, Mr. Yari, and Mr. McManus.
Mr. Yari and Mr. McManus are no longer on the board.
Okay, and is Mr. Golden on the board?
Yes, he is.
He,
Okay,
here.
okay, so you're just missing Ms. Smith.
She's no longer on the board either.
No, she's
Oh.
no longer on the board either.
Okay, so everyone's here.
So
Thank-
I'm a new member, I guess.
And now Alex is, I think you're in for, which one are you in for? Who is your appointee, your commission?
Moritas.
I think your Thomas is a replacement. Is that right? Or do you know?
I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, all right, that's fine, that's fine.
Well, welcome, everybody. Hope everybody's surviving this wonderful time we're having. And at this time, if I could get approval of the B2 Development meeting minutes of February 24th, 2020.
Make a motion.
So we have a motion by Vince,
Second, Jason
Jason.
Crush.
Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, all those who approve the minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The minutes carry. At this time, because Tom McManus has gone off the board, we need to select a chair and a vice chair. So are there any nominees for the chair?
I nominate
Yes,
Arthur
I'd like-
Bengochia.
I'll second the nomination of Arthur Bengochia.
Oh, yeah, well, that's it. It's already second.
Don, do you want to vote individually on the chair and vice chair?
Yes, please.
Okay. Are there any additional nominees for chair? If not, all those in favor of Arthur Bengochia as chair, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Thank you all. For vice chair, would somebody like to either volunteer to be vice chair and be nominated, or can somebody be forced to be vice chair?
My name is Monty Lalwani, and if nobody has any objections, Arthur, I wouldn't mind being vice chair.
I'd love you to be
I'll-
vice chair. That
I'll nominate Monty.
I second that.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate that. Thank you.
so all those in favor of Monty being the vice chair, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thanks. So now we have a chair and a vice chair. Now we also need a nomination for the BRB representative, which I believe Thomas was also the representative from our board. Would somebody who lives in the beach area be interested in that position?
What about Jason?
Jason,
on,
would you be
Jason
interested?
Jason Hughes. I'll do it. I nominate Jason Hughes.
I second that, Monty.
Thanks.
Excellent. Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of Jason Hughes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just, Jason, what will happen is we'll take the recommendation to the next commission meeting, which will be in August. I'm not sure the date. And they'll ratify the recommendation. I don't know if we'll be in time for the next bid meeting, but I would suggest that you dial in for the next bid meeting so you can kind of get to see the folks who they are and so forth. And then we'll make sure that you get the agenda and other pertinent things. They meet once a month, and it's the Monday before our meeting. So they meet the second Monday, we meet the third Monday.
Okay, got it. Thank you. And thank you.
So, Tom, would you like to give us an update on the beach projects?
Sure. Sorry, I had to unmute the mic. Absolutely. So I don't have pictures to share with you guys today. I don't have schedules to share with you guys today in terms of written documentation for you to view. So it's just going to be a quick oral update. At the conclusion, let me know what documentation you would like to see, or if this format is okay. And I'm happy to provide you if additional info if you need something else. So I'd like to start with the Aquatic Center, because that is a project that we're in active construction now. So we've had some big milestones on the project. For folks that aren't aware, the average grade on this site is between a 6 and a 7, and the dive well is going down to about a 20-foot depth. So in order to hold back the water, we had to install sheet pile. We had to pour in concrete to do a procedure called a tremie seal. And all that really is you drive sheet pile around the perimeter and pour a big slug of concrete to hold back the water. We had a very successful pour. It was about 1,300 yards of concrete that got poured in that hole in order to hold back the water.
Wow.
Contractors in there now tying steel, getting ready for the floor of the dive well. Your competition pool, the foundation has been installed. The walls are installed. We just finished up on the surge tank. So we are moving forward with installation of your base scope for the project. Right now, we're targeting approximately July, August of 21 to be done with completion of the base scope for the project. And I stress base scope because there were additional items that were approved by commission at the July 7th meeting. So at that meeting, we added on the 27-meter dive tower to the project. So our initial scope was a 10-meter dive tower that's now grown to 27 meters. And we've already had, we resumed talks with our precast vendor, who's Gate out of Orlando area. And we'll be installing a 27-meter precast concrete dive tower. And we're hoping to be in production by December. We also successfully added on the amenity deck on the north building. So instead of it being a straight roof, we now have a observation deck with a viewing platform, elevator, railings, lighting. And that was a request by the district commissioner. We are moving forward on the middle of August, so the next commission meeting at the 18th. We're looking to enter into an interim agreement with Hensel Phelps for design of the south building. So this is an area that is outside our current scope of work. There'll be a separate contract to be awarded to Hensel Phelps, who's your construction manager. And what we're looking to do is demolish and then rebuild the new south building. Hensel Phelps submitted a unsolicited proposal to the city. We met with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board and got approval to utilize $7 million of park bond dollars towards the design and construction. And we're looking to enter into an interim agreement with Hensel Phelps to cut them loose to start design and bidding for the project. And after roughly 4 to 5 months, we'll come back and review their price and the overall design. And we can either agree to go into a comprehensive agreement and begin demolition and construction on that project, or decide to, not move forward with Hensel Phelps. But that is something that is additional scope and would have its own separate timeline. If I had to read the tea leaves, I don't think we're going to successfully cut one ribbon for this project. I don't think you're going to have bodies in the pool and a south building constructed at the same time. And we'll have a more definitive schedule from the contractor once we can get to a comprehensive agreement. So just kind of to recap for the project, site utilities are still progressing on site. We're installing, the French drain. We're getting ready to start water main installation shortly. We're focusing on the dive well concrete right now. The shell for the comp pool has been poured, and we're working on the surge tank for the comp pool. We added on the 2 scope items, which is the 27-meter tower and the north observation deck. Those are all still tracking to be complete with the pools. And we are working on an interim agreement with Pencil Phelps for the south building, which will have its own separate construction schedule. And I don't have a good time frame when they'll be complete, likely late fourth quarter of 21. So there will be some lag between when the pools open up and when the south building opens up. And before we jump to other projects, that's a lot of info I threw at you. So I don't know if you guys have questions on the pool or if you want me to move on to the other projects.
Tom, this is Art Bengachia. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
On the south building, is the Parks Board going to be the one in charge of that one then? Do you know?
We
Since it's
elected to
coming
go
up-
to the Parks Board because the city currently has that $200 million park bond.
No, I understand that. But will they be the ones that deal with the design and all that of that building?
I want to say yes. I don't know. Don, maybe you can better answer this question.
Sure.
For me. I don't know if this falls under the purview of the CRA as well, or how we move that forward. in terms of approvals.
So what's going to happen between now and the end of the fiscal year is that we have to transition staff from the beach to either other CRA or to other departments. And so the CRA dollars are still going to be in place in building the majority of this aquatic center, but Tom will be transitioning over to the park department, because not only is he going to be still managing this project and the streetscape project on State Road A1A, but he is also going to be managing the park bond program. So to say yes, it'll be under the parks at some point because Tom will be with the parks and Tom will be the project manager. He'll also be managing it as it relates to the CRA as well, because we have CRA dollars in the project and we'll have to make sure that those CRA dollars are spent in an appropriate manner. So he's going to be wearing a couple hats with this project. But Tom, I do want you to talk a little bit about the financing that we've been dealing with in the last week or so, and just advise the board how we're moving forward.
Sure. And good. Yeah, that's a good question, Art. So the main funding structure for the south building it's all park bond dollars. Is what we've been approved for, and that's at the $7 million price tag. The other 2 items that we added onto the project were the 27-meter tower and the north amenity building, and together those had a price tag between 7.8 and 7.9 million as the construction cost for those 2 additional scope items. There are other parts and pieces that we need to fund on the base scope for this project. There are some, and really how we always look at it for the project, we try and chop them up into buckets. And there's really 3 additional buckets we need to fund in this project. There are unforeseen items that we've encountered. There are additional scope items that at a staff level we've elected to move forward with because they make good financial sense for the city in terms of investing the dollars for this project. And then there are delay costs that we've run into for the project. So just back it up again, there's really 3 additional buckets that we need to find financing for on this project. You've heard us mention several times that we have encountered delays on this job from Florida Power and Light. And every time there are delays on the project, there are costs that can be associated with them. So we're looking to find money for these FPL delays. There are unforeseens that we've hit. This is an old site. I think it was built in the late 50s, early 60s with some add-ons happening in the early 90s. And what we show on as-builts aren't always necessarily what you find under the dirt once you start digging. So there is, additional earthwork costs that we're anticipating to incur. There are grade beams that were poured on the site that show an 18-inch depth that are actually 36 inches deep, and now there's concrete that has to be saw cut or chipped out in order to make our utilities fit. So those are some of the unforeseens that we run into. And finally, there are some additional scope items that we decided to investigate. If you recall, the whole reason why the Aquatic Center project really happened, we're getting a hard look at, was in 2011, the grandstand and bleachers for this area became condemned because of all the concrete's falling. What we initially bid for this project was a similar concrete bleacher system, but that had a metal undercarriage under it, or kind of the support structure with the aluminum bleachers on top. If you can picture in mind going to like a high school football game, you kind of see all of the truss system set up underneath the bleachers. That would be something that we had initially proposed. After talking through with the architect and kind of lessons learned on other construction projects on the beach, we felt it was a not wise investment to have this exposed metal in the salt air environment. So we elected to go with a similar type concrete bleacher system that was on site for the past, 60, 70 years. We elected to kind of replicate that system with the aluminum bleacher seating on top. So those are some of the additional costs that we are going to incur on this project, additional scope items that we thought were a good investment for the city to make. So I bring up the additional items and the funding because, like Don mentioned, we have to find the cash in order to support these. So there are other things that we're looking to do to find dollars to fund these obligations now on the project. One of them is, at the end of the year, we can take some of our operating funds and roll it into capital. There are some investments that we make with CRA dollars that we can look to convert to capital dollars for this project. But the other big item that we're really looking at is reducing scope on the State Road A1A project. So for the A1A project, the main scope of work for that was pedestrian lighting on the west side of A1A. And in addition to that, we had some decorative concrete at the hub area, which we define as the intersection of Las Olas and A1A. And the third element were site furnishings on that project. And the biggest one is the traffic rated bollards for pedestrian safety and some, upgrades or relocation of the landscape to help the pedestrian flow on the sidewalk. With the deficit that we're looking at on the Aquatic Center project, we are proposing to reduce some of the scope on the A1A project and shift those dollars into the Aquatic Center. So I believe that that's what Don really wanted me to drive home to you guys, is there may be some skinnying up of the scope of work on the A1A project in order to offset some of these costs on the Aquatic Center project.
So let me just step in for a second. So I don't think any of you were on our board as we were going through this process of developing these projects the past 10 years or so. In previous BRAB boards, actually, I don't think anybody who's currently a member was on any of those boards, but they made it pretty clear to us that they actually prioritized what they thought was important for the renovation of the beach. And A1A was not at the top of the list. And in fact, the Aquatic Center was above A1A. So when we were looking at, what the priority was and how we could get sort of the most redevelopment bang for our buck, we thought that we could still provide the west side lights, which is what the main focus of the State Road A1A project was initially. We later added some scope items to make it a more complete project, but reality is, the number one item was to provide lighting on the west side during turtle season through pedestrian lighting, similar to what we have on the east side. So trying to figure out how we could fund some of these cost escalations, we thought as long as we could keep the lighting on the west side and reduce scope on these other scope items, we could craft the bid for the A1A project to instead of requiring those scope items that we're actually eliminating, we could ask them to be provided as ad alternates, so that if we can find funding in other places, that we could still move forward with some of that additional scope. And right now we're looking at with our budget department, we're looking at some different opportunities to add some of that scope back in as we can locate some funding. But I just wanted to sort of set the stage why we decided to look at A1A to reduce scope, because really what we're just following sort of the precedent that was given to us as we worked through this process, that the Aquatic Center was a higher priority to our advisory board than past advisory boards than the State Road A1A project. I'm not saying it's not important. I do believe it's important, but we have a finite amount of money, and we need to be able to apply that money to complete projects. And at this point, we didn't have another source to complete the project at the Aquatic Center. But we may be able to find some money, like there's some different funds that for like streetscapes, tree plantings and so forth, that we might be able to add some scope into the A1A as we move forward. So I just wanted to set the stage. Tom, you can go ahead, and there's additional things you want to talk about, but I just want to let you know why we're moving forward in that direction.
No, I mean, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head, Don. So I don't know, Art or the rest of the board, if you guys have any questions regarding the funding or.
I have a question. It's Jason Hughes. How far do the west side of A1A street lights go? It goes from the hub area on the west side. How far north?
So the hub area was actually where we were anticipating putting in the concrete. The lighting itself goes from the old Oasis, or now I guess the new Bow Campers, on the west side. So it'll run from there up to Sunrise Boulevard.
That's a lot. During turtle season, if you walk from the W Hotel to the Ritz, if you're a tourist, it's dark.
Yep.
Well,
yeah. So what we're putting in will be, the look will be similar to what is currently on the east side. So you have about 13.5 or 14 foot tall pedestrian fixtures that line the east side of the beach, but those have a amber light and they're high pressure sodium. What we're proposing to put in will be an LED light. It will be the amber for the 8 months out of the year, but then we are running a dual circuit. So for the 4 months out of the year, when it is non-nesting season, it'll click from amber to white. And we currently have that technology was installed as part of your Las Olas project. So the next time y'all are down at the park by the beach, if you look on the east side of the park on the sidewalk, so that would be the west side of A1A, 5 or 6 of those lights are currently installed. There's going to be those same lights running up and down the beach. So it'll be those lights with the full cutoff shield that Fish and Wildlife prefer. It'll be the amber LED for the 8 months during nesting season, and for the 4 months non-nesting, it'll click over to white. It's more of a cost for the city because I'm running 2 circuits. I'm running two different conduits. I'm running two sets of wires in order to feed these lights. But I think it provides a better advantage for us for this 4 months. We can enjoy the white light and not impact wildlife.
So we're not proposing to strip the lighting. You're just changing to the dual circuit LEDs like we did on the other part. But you're taking out the concrete work at the hub
and the concrete work and landscape movement on A1A? Or are you still doing the concrete work?
Basically, all the pretty stuff we're getting rid of. So it becomes more utilitarian. So all the concrete we're proposing to not get rid of, but like Don says, it's always a challenge how to procure things. So if you write it into a bid that this is an alternate, you still get the contractor and subcontractor community to price out these items. And wherever you successfully award the contract to, it's now built in there. You're not awarding them that scope of work, but now they've priced it. So if the money becomes available, or if the market is less than what we had initially budgeted for, then we can always add those items back in. But it is critical that you do solicit, you do advertise it, you do competitively bid it. So in the event that the contractor that you award it to, you can find the money to fund it, then we add it into the scope of work. So I just want to make sure that's clear to everybody. But to answer your question, Jason, yes, it's really getting rid of the site furnishings, which is like benches, bollards, basically eliminating the landscape and irrigation scope and eliminating the decorative concrete.
Has this already been voted on by commission?
No, has not been voted on by commission. I don't know if it is a commission action item.
We're gonna be taking it to the commission in August. So, and we had actually taken the park bond. They approved the park bond at the last meeting. Now we're to be taking this to cover the remainder of the cost.
How much are we talking about?
What is it talking about? 2.5 or something?
So these maneuvers basically help us eliminate what, and again, you know, I have to stress that everything we're looking at is always an estimate. You really don't know how much it's going to cost until you get the guy that's installing it to actually give you a price to do it. So we rely on our consultants or rely on historical construction data.
Yeah, understood.
So I just want to make sure that that point's made. So what
about $2.5 million. What how much?
About like between 1.5 to 1.7 million is what we believe from these cuts.
1.5 to 1.7. What's the total cost of the pool now? 40 million, 50 million, 35 million?
No, it's if you add in the south building, you're in the 44 to 45 million range.
Okay. And we want to strip 1.5 to 1.75 from A1A, which is
right
the entrance to our beach, to make up some of the additional items that are happening at the pool. Not including some of the things the commissioners were put on their wish list last meeting, right?
Correct.
Okay. Are we taking a vote on this?
Well, we weren't planning on taking a vote on it. We can take a vote on it. It's not listed as a voting item on the agenda.
Which we have to, okay, I don't support it. I don't know how everybody else feels. I think that A1A is a critical component. I know we've done so much work on Las Olas and A1A. The concrete work in the hub, I think we could do without. The lighting, we definitely need to have. I think we need to improve the sidewalk along A1A. I know we just continually I understand that 15 years ago that A1A was not a priority, but as long as I've been on this board for the past couple of years, it has been. And even before that, I mean, the pool took a lot longer than anybody thought it was going to take, right? A lot longer. I mean, 10, 12 years. So that's just my thought. So, I mean, obviously we can't vote on it if we didn't agendize it.
So let me just put a little bit of perspective in it. So when we talk about decorative concrete, we're talking about the hub and what I don't know how many feet north and south, but we're not talking about a huge amount. No, we're not talking about the west side either. It's on the east side.
I thought we already stripped that out when we had a plan a couple of years ago, the pretty concrete, and then delineating where the outdoor dining was and all that. We had that on the west side of A1A.
That's right. And
that's already been stripped out. So now we're stripping out more.
Well, the thing is, and I'm just going to be completely frank, is that
Run out of money.
we don't have the money.
I know.
We have a finite amount of money, and has been made in the past very clear to at least us and to us that the Aquatic Center was the priority.
Oh, we just
So-
like, we need to get it done. I mean, so as
I
long,
agree.
okay, we've already stripped out the decorative concrete on the west side. I mean, we need to make sure that there's no chance that the lighting gets stripped out, because, I mean, the lighting is a safety issue. I mean, Jason will tell you, people who walk up and down the beach. My mom lives on over on North Beach. It's dark.
Very dark.
We know
So
we have the turtle issue. I like the dual circuit lighting, because then that gives us the opportunity to have the amber lighting and not have to run guys out there to take shields off or to put up white lights during the 4 months out of the season. So, I mean, I'll back down on my comments on the decorative concrete, because I didn't realize that we already took out the west side.
So the lighting north of the CRA is paid for with the FDOT JPA grant. And this was a grant that was given to us a while back when we first looked at doing when we first looked at shifting the traffic to Seabreeze. You remember that plan?
Yeah.
About?
So this is about Alhambra North, you're saying, is funded.
Yeah, and so and that's what it is. And then if we have money left over, it'll also help fund whatever's in the CRA. But the CRA is going to be covering the remainder of those of that lighting where the FDOT monies run out in the CRA. So
Oasis, down to Oasis.
that's right. So that is the primary element in this streetscape. So that is not being proposed to be removed. And if we get this approval in August, we should be good to go from a cost standpoint for all of our projects to move forward to completion.
Don, how far north does that grant cover?
It takes us to Sunrise Boulevard.
Okay, thank you.
Don, quick question.
I'm sorry.
Don, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, quick question. At the intersection of Las Olas and A1A on the east side, on the beach side, they had ripped up a large amount of the pavers when they were doing that intersection over, and they kind of patched it with concrete. So it's a mix of pavers and concrete there. Are we planning to leave it that way, or are we going to put pavers back there, or at least clean it up? I don't know if you're familiar with what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the concrete is kind of like jagged with the pavers along that main intersection. It looks a little unsightly. I don't know if they're planning to fix that or not.
I'll ask Tom to chime in, but they're supposed to put it back to where it was. So
They
Tom,
are.
can you chime in on that, please?
Sure. So that was the area of the project. So the reason for the kind of that concrete patch is we had to put new storm drain structures in there. If you recall, we tabletopped that intersection, or created kind of the flush street condition. So this for your road is now raised up to the same elevation as your back of Sidewalk. You kind of have the valley in that area. So in order to raise up that road, you kind of create a high point, and you have to then ramp down north and south of that flush condition in order to meet existing grade, which now creates a low point. So where your high point meets your low point and matches existing grade, we had to put in new storm structures. And in order to get that storm line in there were a lot of utilities in the way that we certainly did not plan on. So in order to make that work happen, we had to basically trench and tear up a lot of those pavers in order to make your drainage connection. So that's the reason why it all got chewed up. At the time, I certainly thought we had the money in order to do the concrete at the hub. So we didn't elect to have the contractor save the pavers because that wasn't in his scope of work, and that'd be an extra charge. So I thought I was being smart. Is what really happened. Now that we don't have the money in order to do the concrete in the hub, or potentially don't have the money, I believe you're right. We got to put the pavers back. That's not a higher cost item. That's just something where I got to find the money in order to put the pavers back. Or if we don't put the pavers back and we have the cash, then we'll do the concrete at the hub. So I don't have an answer for you of what it will be other than the patch won't stay. It'll either be going back to pavers, or it'll be taking out all the pavers in that area and going to the decorative concrete, depending how the dollars shake out. But I do know that pavers are accessible because in 2014, 2015, the city hired Russell Engineering to do the A1A restoration from Hurricane Sandy, that washout area, and they continue
Yes.
the same paving pattern. So we have the style of brick, it is available. So we're able to get our fingers on it. It's just going to be how the dollars shake out to see what is the direction for that patch. But either way, that's something that has to get rolled into the scope of work for that project.
Thank you, Tom.
I would like to follow up on the comments that were made about the lighting. I also served for a number of years on the Central Beach Alliance,
Hey,
which
Bob,
truly
you can't see you. We're looking at your carpet, I think, or something.
I don't know quite why, but
Sorry, I just wanted to let you know. I'm staring at something that's not you. I don't know.
We're hoping it's your carpet.
I don't know why I can't see. Maybe I'm doing all of you a favor by you not seeing it. But, I'm speaking in behalf of another board that I've been serving for the last number of years. That's the Central Beach Alliance, that truly represents the owners of property on the beach as well as businesses. And the lighting is paramount. That's been a safety concern for a long time, and it needs to be addressed because it's an ongoing issue. So I just don't want to see any dollars deleted from that.
That's understood, yes.
Can I just ask a quick question? I'm new. As far as the design goes, is that all designed to have that alternates put in? Just because I just wanted to kind of understand that. It's not like we're going to go back and have to change plans and things like that.
No. So it's all designed. I mean, originally the intent was to construct it. Once we kind of had other items happen at the Aquatic Center that we needed to fund, it was where can we cut scope in order to fund those items.
Gotcha.
So design's done. We're at, basically we're at bid docs, bid tabs. So now all we do is just change, I guess, the way we define it as, instead of it being base scope for the contractor, the price, we just do it as an add-on.
Add alternate. Okay.
Yeah, when it goes out to bid.
Just checking.
How much are we over budget?
For which one? Well, the main project that is now requiring additional dollars is the Aquatic Center. I forget who asked the question. I think it was Jason. I wanted to know where do we stand on the job now, roughly. If you add in the additional scope items of the 27-meter tower, the north observation deck, and the south building, and you also add in the 3 items that I talked about before, the 3 buckets, which were your delay costs, your unforeseen costs, as well as I'd call them minor scope adds that staff approved at a staff level. The job has grown from 27 million to 45 million, in that range. So if I can find the money, then technically it's not over budget, but from what we awarded to our construction manager, who's Hensel Phelps, we awarded them a $27 million contract. What is now grown to with these additional items is something in the neighborhood of 44 to 45 million. So that is the project that is sucked up the most cash. And as a result of that, we're looking then to trim costs and other items to try and plug the holes. So I'm not asking for much. I'm just asking for like, wait, let me do the math. 27 to 44. I'm not asking for much, fellas. I just need another 17.
Tom, do you have further updates on any of the other?
I do. So, sorry, I don't want to delay y'all too much longer. The other project that we are working on is the DC Alexander Park. That's a parcel that is directly across the street from the Aquatic Center. Originally, the CRA had $5 million in that project. We took the $5 million out of the project to put into the Aquatic Center to fund the 27-meter tower, but we still have encumbered dollars in there to advance the design. We have reviewed and signed off on the 60% design for the project. It was Keith and Associates, so they're now rebranded as Keith is your prime design consultant. And we're looking to advance the 60 to a 90% set of drawings, and we'll go back and review again. We're basically starting all your permit submittals at this point. So we have permits into DEP for your coastal construction control line permit. You have some FDOT permits for drainage and driveway connections. We've also started our Broward County surface water management permit. So all those packages are out the door. And that's basically where we're at on the job. Probably a couple months away from taking a peek at the 90% drawings.
The idea would be once we've completed the drawings, and they'd be ready for if the Parks Department would apply park bond dollars to this project, they'd be ready to be constructed.
Right. It'd either be park bond, potentially park impact fee, but Don's right. The area dollars that were allocated to it before for construction got shifted over to the Aquatic Center. So we have money in there to pay for basically 100% construction documents. And at that's the time and place where the CRA hits the pause button for funding the project. And we hand over 100% construction documents or CDs over to Parks and Rec. And once they come up with a funding source, then we can move forward with bidding and then actually constructing that project. And then the last one is the district commissioner had requested the CRA to take a look at doing some sidewalk restoration on Almond Avenue. So we had issued a small task order to Craven Thompson to look at helping us with some drainage issues. We believe we have a cheap and easy fix for the drain issue at Almond and Las Olas. And we're looking to move forward with kind of a work order to one of our continuing contractors to do sidewalk restoration and a little bit of asphalt work at Las Olas and Almond Avenue.
Tom, how far will that go? Will that go to Point Siena?
Yeah, and so basically we're not touching much asphalt. There is a ponding issue that's been created at Almond and Las Olas that I think if we rework the asphalt, I can get a little bit of positive drainage and help out that area. And the rest of the job is going to be sidewalk replacement. So it'll be that side of the road all the way down to Point City where it dead ends. As much as I can spin the corner, but basically we have $100 grand. And we're going to utilize a contractor that has a continuing contract with the city. And basically he has a suite of unit rates, like X amount of bucks a foot to do concrete, X amount of dollars to reset all your utility boxes that are embedded within the concrete. So it'll be, as far as I can stretch, $100 grand will be how much I can do. And once I kind of get a timeline, Public Works manages that contract. So I got to get in touch with them to reset up the work order. Once that's set, contractor gives me a date, then I can give you all an update when they're going to be doing the work. But basically it's rip up sidewalk, those sides of the street, and then pour back with your standard gray concrete.
Tom, I have a question. How's the parking garage and everything with that going? I know it's basically done.
It's basically done. There are still a few work items remaining. We have one sub tier on site now that's finishing up some work on your 5th level amenity deck for the bathroom. We're doing some rework on some louvers. So I have universal drywall out there. They should have wrapped up or are wrapping up this week. We have your electrician on site as well, Meisner Electric. They're doing your street light poles near the in front of Monty's place, in front of that liquor store. There's a couple light poles that need to go in that area, and across from Quarterdeck at that little park, that little pocket park area. That's really the main scope of work items to be installed on the project. So we're kind of basically at financial closeout, a little bit of punch work, and a little bit of added scope to still be installed. We're say 90, 98, 99% done with all the construction on the project.
And the other thing is we're still looking for a resolution to the staining on the facade mesh. And we're working right now with our manager's office and other folks in the city to figure out how we would move forward. And ultimately, they will recommend a course of action to the city commission on what they think is the best way to move forward. So I don't want to get into too much detail of that because, we're still trying to work our way through that, but that's still an active item that we are looking to hopefully get to a point where we can propose a way to move forward to rectify the issue that's there.
Don or Tom, sorry, I just want to butt in and ask a question. Tom, you were talking about the contractors coming around the liquor store area. I have a small request to see if, would it be possible to just send me an email when these guys are working on the property or in the immediate area? Not too many times, but sometimes we've walked into like a big surprise where a street closure that should not have been closed all day is closed all day, or sometimes there's 3 big trucks just parked at the liquor store. And listen, I'm very easygoing, but the problem is that the people that are working on site are not as communicative as you and I are. So if I could just have a little bit of a heads up so I can at least tell them where to park, where to maneuver, because they don't always have respect for easement access for my customers. So I don't mind if they park on site. I just would like them to know where to park so my customers don't get affected.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so they got about a week's worth of work coming up.
Okay.
They're going to be dropping a lane. So all that means is they're going to be closing the lane adjacent to the sidewalk.
Okay.
It'll just be during working hours. So it'll be a quick setup and takedown. And, they need it there because they're going to have their trucks in order to install the foundation for the light poles and then actually setting the light poles themselves.
So when does this start, Tom? From start to what day?
They were initially supposed to be out there today, but I don't know with all the rain we hit this morning if they just pulled off for today. But
okay,
it's supposed to be this week is when they're going to work, and it'll be a lane closure. I think from 8 to 4, 8 to 5.
Okay.
And
right.
Basically, the only light pole remaining to be installed near your property is basically between your easternmost driveway and I guess that French bakery, whatever that building is.
Yes.
There's a storm drain in that area. They got to put a spread footer in that area for the light pole.
Okay.
And then the rest of the poles go by the pocket park east of the French bakery.
Got it. We have a couple of the lights that we have on the liquor store. They're the city lights, but they're on Las Olas. And sometimes when you're walking, it even looks like it's on property. So I was wondering if something like that, are we going to get the lights in there as well? Because some of them are not lit up, even the city lights.
But I don't understand the question. What are you looking for, Monty?
Are you going to be like changing the lights or adding lights to the city fixtures right outside?
No. Our putting in is going to be the I think they're the street light poles that they're going to be going in. So they're you have 2 new decorative light poles that kind of went in front of your in front of your driveway. There's one more that's going in between your driveway and that French bakery.
And French bakery. Okay, I got it now. Thank you, Tom.
Does anybody have any further questions of Tom?
No?
Okay.
And Art, one more thing is if the folks aren't aware, there is a website that you can go to get updates for the Aquatic Center. And we have a couple cameras set up on site, one on the west side, one on the east side of the property. And they should be updating the content. Sometimes there's a lag of a couple days, but you can kind of get a little more, I wouldn't say live action, but at least a little more feel for where we are on the project. So if you folks want, I can send you the link.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, yeah, not a problem. I'll make sure to get it to you guys.
Don, do you have anything further? And do we need to say anything to the city commission?
Can I just make a small note here, Art, before?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if Don is still trying to collect his thoughts, but in the meantime, I do want to say that I did agree with what Jason Crush had to say about the sidewalk. I don't want to again bring this stuff up, I don't, but I just want to say that if it is something that we could vote on, or if it is something that we could speak about, I don't know how much. I know it's pretty much set in stone, and I'm probably treading on thin waters here, but I do agree that A1A being the entrance of the neighborhood, it really would hurt if we left it as is or without the plan. So I don't know if there's something that can be done, but if it's something that we could look at, that would be great. That's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. Don, is it possible to let the city commission know that we would like to explore ways to possibly keep the funding for the beautification, especially at Las Olas and A1A?
Well, I think through the communication in the city commission, you could express that desire. I think what I heard, number one, is you want to make sure that the pedestrian lighting is put in all along the west side. I think that was your number one thing.
Yeah.
You said that. I've heard a number of members say if we can't do the other stuff, we definitely need to do that. So I would, if I was part of the voting, people voting, I would say that that's the first priority. Second would be you think that the other amenities that are being suggested for removal, that other funding sources be considered to keep those amenities in the project. I mean, I think that's what I heard from you folks.
Do we need to put that in the form of a motion to the city commission?
Yeah, I think what you could say, you make somebody does a motion to the communication, and there's a second, and you vote on it, and it goes to them then.
Okay. Jason, would you like to? This is Jason Crush. Since you started with your thoughts, would you like to start and make a motion?
Sure. I'd like to make a motion that we transmit a communication to the city commission stating that we are adamantly in support of leaving funding for the pedestrian lighting from Oasis to the northern boundary of the CRA. And that if possible, we would like to see either an alternate funding source or as an add-on for the streetscape improvements and pedestrian improvements on A1A on the east and west side of the road.
I second that.
Was that Vince?
Monty. I'm sorry. It was Monty.
Okay, sorry. Your name didn't come up. Okay, so
Before we
have a
vote on
motion. Pardon?
Before we vote on it.
No. Let's get the motion on the table first and just make sure, then we'll have a discussion on the motion, Bob.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks. So we now have a motion and a second to transmit to the city commission our support for the lighting and for the streetscape improvements. Jason was more eloquent than I am. So with that, let's open it up to discussion. So Bob?
Yeah, I looked at, I agree with everything, but I'd like to see us a little bit stronger than if possible, as far as the funding goes. I'd like to say we recommend that other sources be found, not if possible. And again, only if the motion maker and the second agree to that.
I would agree to that friendly amendment.
So Monty, do you agree with it also?
I'm sorry, my phone was on mute. I second that. I'm okay with that amendment, absolutely.
Okay, so is Jamie the one taking the minutes, Don?
Yeah, so Jamie, if you could do the roll call, please.
Sure. Mr. Ang,
Yes.
Mr. Crush,
Yes.
Mr. Hughes,
Yes.
Mr. Lawani,
Yes.
Mr. Luz,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Golden,
Yes,
Mr. Sheffer,
Yes.
and Chair Bungo Chia.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Is there anything further that we would like to tell the city commission at this point?
Motion to adjourn.
I have one item.
Oh, go ahead, Tom.
That's fine. So this is under, I guess, new and old and new business. I just wanted to let the board know this is my last meeting, that I am retiring from the city, and that will take an effect before our next board meeting. So I wanted to thank you all for your participation on the board, and I've been really enjoyed it the time I've been here. But it's time for me to sort of do some different things, and so opportunity came up to retire, and I'm going to be doing that.
Should have told us we would have brought a cake. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah, congratulations and thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your many years of service to the city of Fort Lauderdale. You've had many hats on through the years and always attacked them with full force. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Absolutely. Thank you, Don. Amazing. Congratulations.
We'll come visit you at Don's Bar and Grill, wherever that is.
Yeah, right.
On your fishing boat, Don.
Don't worry, I got you.
When you do charter fishings, we're gonna come with you.
There you go. Yeah. I'll be around until the end of this month. Then I'm taking some vacation. And then after the vacation, I'll be done. So anyway, if you have to get a hold of me before then, I'm still at the office until next Friday. So.
Well, congratulations and enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jason, now you can, it was Jason Crush who made the motion to adjourn, correct?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Is
Second,
there a second?
second, Vinny.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. We'll see you all next month.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Take care.